This all boils down to my wife's father. I have a 6-year-old son that started living with me as his primary guardian when he was 3, and his mom went back to school. I met my wife through work, and I also met her father, who worked at the same company in a higher role than both of us. My wife knew I had a son, but I said I wouldn't introduce them unless we became a serious couple, because that wouldn't be fair to him. When my wife did meet my son, they got along really well. I invited her and her father over for dinner one night, and her father met my son for the first time. He was weird and awkward around my son and made strange comments about his appearance. His mom is Black. I confronted him after the dinner, and he made some pretty pathetic excuses. After that, I asked him to not contact me outside of work matters and asked her for space. A couple weeks later, my wife told me she had completely cut her father off for his beliefs. Our relationship became stronger than ever. When we got engaged, she said she didn't want her father at the wedding. We ended up both transferring to other companies. As far as I knew, he was gone from both of our lives for good. My wife is pregnant and due in a month. She has already started maternity leave and has been looking for a new job to start after maternity leave because she doesn't want to stay at her current company. Yesterday, she sat me down and told me her dad got her an interview for a job at our old company. She also told me she has been talking to him for a couple months and wants to know how I would feel about him knowing our future child. I told her the truth. I told her I felt betrayed, and I felt like she betrayed my son, who she claimed to think of as her son as well. I told her that she would even ask me. That makes her less of a person in my eyes. She started crying and asked me what kind of insensitive jerk would call the woman pregnant with his kid less of a person. I told her that was how I felt. And although the language was harsh, I felt it matched what she was asking for. After cooling off, I'm now unsure if my word choice was warranted and wondering if I was an asshole for speaking to her that way while she is pregnant and more emotionally vulnerable. I could have just said I wasn't okay with what she was proposing without insulting her character. Update 1. Couples counseling didn't help. An honest discussion did. My wife and I went to couples counseling. When we called to book, there was one counselor that had a last-minute opening and the rest had long waits. There was a reason for this. If you ever need to book a therapist, don't book the one with immediate availability. Anyway, so we went this morning. First and foremost, the therapist would not listen to us as we tried to explain why we were there. So much time was wasted because she kept insisting on talking about and asking about topics that weren't what we needed to talk about. My wife and I both repeatedly tried to explain the issue, and the therapist kept saying, "The surface issue is rarely the problem. It's the issue underneath that." It took half an hour for us to get her to actually address what occurred. When she finally listened to us explain what happened, she said flat out that I was wrong. My wife was right. I need to apologize for what I said and accept that her dad would always be important to her and had a right to be in his grandchild's life. I'm pretty sure therapists are supposed to be a bit more neutral. Anyway, she could tell I was irritated and asked what I was feeling. I said I felt deceived. I felt like my wife pretended to be someone. And now I'm meeting the real her. My wife started to cry, and the therapist said my answer was unproductive. I asked my wife, "What about you? How do you feel?" She said she felt lost. She said she's lost her family one by one because they did things she couldn't accept. Realizing the child she was carrying would never know her biological family upset her, and it made her wonder if her standards are too high. The therapist jumped in and said it's important to meet people where they are out, and cutting people out isn't the answer. The therapist ended things saying we had a lot of work to do but could fix things. When we left, my wife said she was very opinionated for a therapist. I agreed. She asked if we could go get brunch and just talk, and I agreed to that. We talked. I apologized for the way I spoke to her. She apologized for keeping secrets from me. I told her I would never be okay with her dad being part of our kids' lives. She said she understood. I also said I thought it was a bad idea to go back to the old company, but ultimately that's her choice. She said she was going to tell her dad that meeting the baby isn't on the table and then see his reaction and go from there. I thanked her for telling me. She asked me if I was thinking about leaving her. I was honest and said I had thought about it, but that wasn't what I wanted. We both got very emotional. She asked if I loved her, and I said yes. I asked if she loved my son, and she said yes. I asked if she thinks she'll love the baby more, and she said no. She hesitated, but I'm trying not to read into that. I feel we made some progress, and we will continue to work on our relationship, without the terrible therapist, and try to be our best for each other and the children. Update 2. I am falling out of love with my pregnant wife. My wife is due to give birth to our son in 3 weeks, and this information used to make me happier than I could express. Now I feel a sense of impending doom. I'm scared she's not the person I thought she was. I always thought we were very aligned in our values and goals. But now I'm not sure. My son is 6 years old. I was in my freshman year of college when he was conceived. His mom dropped out of school to take care of him. We both worked part-time jobs, but she and her family did the majority of the work in those early years. We were never in a committed relationship, but we will always be connected through our son. When I graduated and got a steady job, I told her I would step up and become our son's primary caretaker while she returned to school, as I knew it was her desire to do so. For the last 3 years, I have had my son the majority of the time. He spends a lot of weekends with his mom, but he is mostly with me. When I started dating my wife, I told her I had a son and he was my first priority. She said she liked that about me. When we became more serious and she met my son, they got along well. When a member of her family said gross racist things about my son, she said she wanted to cut that family member out of her life. My wife told me she loved me and my son and wanted us all to be a family. She has always been good with him, playing with him and talking to him about his day and helping him with his homework. I felt like my child was safe around her. Now, whenever they are together, I am nervous. I doubt everything she told me that I once believed with absolute certainty. Part of me thinks I am crazy for not trusting her, but another part says, if I have any doubt at all, I have to prioritize my kid. The problem is soon I will have 2 kids. I feel so lost and confused. Sometimes I wish I never met my wife. Update 3. My wife and I just had a son. He's a little over a week old. We also have a son who isn't her biological child, who is 6. About a month ago, I found out my wife resumed contact with her racist father, which was horrible to find out because my son is Black. We talked about the issue a lot, and she agreed to never have our kids around her father, but she continued to speak with him. My wife has been resting since giving birth. I took 2 weeks off work so I could take care of the kids and home entirely while she rests. Yesterday, she came out of our room from a nap while I was cleaning the kitchen, and my son was on the couch holding the baby. She took a picture, which I get because it's cute, and then took the baby to feed and sat with my son and talked to him for a bit. I felt like things were going really well. But when my son went to his room to play for a bit, she came up to me to show me the picture. I thought it was very cute. But then she said she wanted to send it to her father. I was upset and told her I wasn't okay with that. I asked her why she would even want to do that, knowing her father has such contempt for my son. She got upset and gave me the baby and went back to our room. I am supposed to go back to work on Friday, but I already emailed my boss asking if I can come in next Monday instead. I need to talk to my wife about how to resolve the situation with her dad, but I don't want to upset her after just giving birth. Should I take more time off? Should I talk to her on Sunday? Should I talk to her before that? We need to have a difficult conversation, but the timing is important and I don't want to mess it up. Update 4. There's more context in my earlier posts, but essentially my wife cut off her racist father while we were dating, in large part because of comments he made about my son, who is Black. My wife started to miss her dad while she was pregnant and now wants to find a way for him to have limited involvement in our lives. He really wants to know our newborn, and she says he is willing to follow rules to have a relationship with him. I am considering leaving her because of all of this. So, yesterday we sat down to talk about everything. My wife and I are really good friends with another couple. Because we had such a bad experience with therapy, the wife from this couple, who is one of my wife's best friends, agreed to moderate our discussion. Her husband watched our kids. I laid it all out on the table that I would never accept her father and would do everything possible to protect my kids from her father, that I would never allow him near my older son, and would do everything possible to keep him away from the baby as well. My wife asked if I was planning on leaving her, and I said I was preparing myself emotionally for that possibility. My wife said that no one else in her family wants anything to do with her except for her father, that they have all cut her off. She said she really wants our baby to know someone from her family. I asked if that was worth the cost that came with it, and she said no, but that she wished I would try to understand. I said I wasn't capable of understanding wanting someone like that in our child's life. She said her father was from a different time and grew up hearing really nasty things about Black people, and it isn't his fault. I said I honestly didn't care, and was sorry if that made me a bad person. I said, I married you, not your dad. If I knew it was a package deal, I wouldn't have married you. Our friend interjected at that point and said we needed to focus on solutions and a plan forward. My wife said she would continue to talk to her father, but not send him any pictures or information about the kids. This is a fair compromise. The thing is, though, I don't believe her anymore. I feel like she's just saying what I want to hear. Am I delusional? Is there any chance of saving my marriage? Update 5. Yesterday, I ended my relationship with my wife, and today I feel like a shell of a person. My wife and I have a 6-week-old child together. I also have a son from before I met her. My son is not the same race as myself, and my wife and her father has an issue with that. My wife cut her father out of her life when we were dating, but she reconnected with him while pregnant. Yesterday, I came home from work to find this man in my home holding our baby. I told him to get out. He tried to argue with me. I said by tomorrow I wouldn't be living here anymore, and he can come over whenever he likes. But while I am packing mine and my son's things, he needs to get out away from me, out of my sight. My wife freaked out. She started panicking and hyperventilating. She told me I couldn't leave. I said I absolutely can and that I am done. I'm so embarrassed because I started crying when I said that I love my wife so much, and I don't want to leave her. I had tears and snot all over my face, and my wife's dad started making fun of me. I yelled at him to get out, and she started yelling at him to get out too. I found my son hiding in his room. She tried to come in and talk to me, but I locked the door. My wife begged me to stay, but I ignored her. I could tell my son was scared. I packed up his essentials and took him to my car. My wife followed me carrying the baby. She told me I couldn't leave, but I said I had to get my son out of that environment. She said I had to take the baby. Then, as proof, I would come back. Baby was crying at this point, but I got him buckled into the carrier and drove off. I took my son to where his mom lives with her mother. My son's mom wasn't there, but her mom was. I said I had a family emergency, and she happily agreed to watch her grandson until his mom came home from class. I then took the baby back home. They only live an hour away, so I was only gone for 2.5 hours. When I got home, my wife was in a state I was scared for her. I went inside and said I wasn't leaving the residence because I was worried about the baby, but our relationship is over. She lost it completely. I took the baby on a walk to the store and then came back. She'd calmed down somewhat from sheer exhaustion. She told me I couldn't leave her. I said I wasn't leaving physically yet, but it's over. I have never felt so empty before. I miss my wife, even though she's right in the other room. I miss my son, even though I FaceTimed him twice since dropping him off. I'm so angry at my wife. I'm worried this will impact my custody agreement with my son's mother. I'm sad that the person I thought was the love of my life isn't who I thought she was. I'm scared for our baby being exposed to all of this stress and negativity. I feel like this is all my fault. Like I should have seen it coming. I should have found a way to prevent this. Update 6. Is it possible to get a contested divorce without spending a large amount of money on New Jersey? I'm currently seeking to divorce my wife in the state of New Jersey. We have one child together, infant. And I have a child that predates our relationship who she is the stepmother of, but has no legal custody of. We are renters and own 2 cars. My car was purchased before our marriage and is in my name. Her car was purchased during our marriage, and we are both on the loan and title. I want her to have it and am willing to continue splitting the payments on it until it is paid off. We have joint savings. Ideally, this would be split between us, but it's not a huge amount of money. And if she gets all of it, oh well, we each have separate retirements tied to our Social Security. I don't want any of hers or for her to touch mine. She is not consenting to the divorce. She is adamant that we will remain married. Our relationship is over, but she doesn't accept this. Every lawyer I've consulted has quoted an insane figure to me. They said the only way for this to be affordable is if it's an uncontested divorce. Is this true? Or are they just trying to profit off me? Is there a way to divorce without her consent that won't bleed me? Dry update 7 today. I screwed up by knocking up my son's mom. My wife and I are separated but are still living together. We had irreconcilable differences. I'm still living with her to help care for our son and her. Because our son is only 3 months old, her mental health has been incredibly bad. So I have had to care for both of them. However, even though I'm caring for her and our baby, she still has been inviting her father, who I refuse to interact with, over to our place. When she does this, I just leave, even though she begs me not to. Often I will make food for both of us, and she will invite him over to come eat it. This is unbearable for me, but I can't do anything because I won't stop cooking for her since she's nursing our baby. When she invites her father over, I go to see my son, who has been staying with his mom. His mom and I ended up reconnecting and sleeping together a few times. I have felt very alone since the person I thought I would be with forever betrayed me. Yesterday, my son's mom found out she was pregnant. This is pretty inconvenient for her since she is graduating next month and currently is job hunting and doing interviews. She's also not sure how she wants to proceed with me since we never intended to be in a relationship. I just wanted to feel close to someone, and she was just blowing off steam because she was stressed about exams. Not to mention, technically, I am still married. This is such a mess. I feel like I am in quicksand. I keep making bad decisions over and over. I married someone I thought I could trust and was wrong about. And now I've knocked up a woman who probably doesn't want to be in a relationship with me. When I already have a 3-month-old, I am such an irresponsible idiot. Notable comments. Stop getting people pregnant. Stop projecting onto your wife about how she's not going to love my son as much as her son. Which is wild, because you literally left your new child for your first one. Stop getting people pregnant if you can't maintain a family. Your wife is desperate for connection. I ended up living with my dad, who I was no contact with for 5 years after I had my kid because I just needed some damn help. She already had 2 people in her family cut her off for stating obvious facts about someone she willingly cut her father off for you and your son. You claim she doesn't love. It's not abnormal for pregnant women to want to reach out to family during and after the pregnancy, no matter how shitty the family is. The fact that you can't see that and have no empathy to the hormonal changes she has been going through the past year is so incredibly wild to me, especially considering the fact that you can't seem to stop getting women pregnant. You should know a thing or two by now about how pregnancies and hormones work. Go back to therapy. Stop being a huge piece of crap to your wife and new child. Stop making your self-sustaining as a mother firstborn a priority over your literally can't lift his head up yet newborn, and stop projecting onto your wife. You need serious help, my guy. And your problems are now above the Reddit pay grade. Update 8 yesterday, I had plans to take my son to a water park. I asked my friend's wife, who is good friends with my wife, to stay with her for the day. She can't really be alone right now because of her health. All of these plans were made in advance. When I got home, my wife was alone with our baby and her friend was not there. I contacted the friend who said that my wife cussed her out and told her to get out of her home and her life. I understand that's a lot to put up with. But she didn't even call to tell me she was leaving her alone. She told me she didn't call me because my wife is a grown woman and everyone needs to stop coddling her. I said that wasn't her decision and that I felt betrayed by what she did. She called me a disaster whose life is falling apart and that instead of passing judgment on her, I should shut up and listen. For once, I didn't mean to offend her. I was just shocked by what she did, but her extreme response makes me think I did something wrong. Was I an asshole for judging her actions?